I am Jeannie Smith. We have a little owl here that's looking at us. I'm gonna put it
It's
so that
very
you
cute.
can
Oh,
have a seat,
good. Yeah.
so you can see. So we have a little owl here, and it focuses on either one of us when we're talking. It has the speaker and everything embedded inside of it.
Great.
So I'm Jeannie Smith, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Diana Honig.
All right, and you are running for office in Ward 2, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we just have a couple of questions to just kind of see where you're at as far as some of the challenges that have come up for classified.
Did you want me to talk a little bit first about like why I'm running?
You're
and my
welcome to.
background? I don't know how much people have reviewed the materials or.
Go ahead. I was thinking towards the end, but you're welcome to go ahead and open up and share about yourself, why you're running, and
Just so people have a sense of who I am before we go into questions and where I'm coming from. I think it might be helpful.
sounds good.
So yes, I'm running for the Contra Costa Community College District, Ward 2, Board of Trustees. And my background is that, I am really passionate about public education and the role that the community colleges play in our community. I want to make sure that everyone has access to community colleges. That's what they're there for. It's for everyone in the community, whether they are a high school student who wants to take more challenging classes or get their, resume looking good for to apply to colleges, whether it is someone who wants to go for a couple of years and transfer to a four-year college, which is becoming increasingly popular as it's hard to get into, the affordable UC system. It's an opportunity for, it's really everybody, every age. It's for seniors. It's for veterans who want to continue their education. And also it's really important for workforce development. And the CTE classes are very popular. I think they need to be advertised more. And they play a really critical role in our county to move people into the middle class. They really are what I would call the great equalizer. So, and they can really transform people's lives. And so I have a lot of personal experience with that. Like both of my parents were first generation in their family to go to school, go to college, I should say. And so my dad, he got into a lot of trouble. He was a bit of a rebel and he got kicked out of a couple high schools and he, married his high school girlfriend. So he had a really bad 2-year teenage marriage. And then he tried to get his act together. And so he went to LA City College. I grew up in Southern California, probably hear my Valley accent. And he went to LA City College and he really found his passion. He got a teaching degree and he loved to teach. Like he's the kind of person who would just sit and read about history. He just loved this particular history, but he taught elementary school for 30 years until his retirement. And at LA City College, he met my mom, and my mom was also getting her teaching degree. And she never would have been able to go to college either. They couldn't afford a four-year college. Her dad was a contractor and her mom worked in a factory. So she got her teaching degree and she taught middle school English for many years. And then she actually went back to school at Cal State Northridge, and got a degree in educational psychology and got marriage, family, child counseling license, and then opened her own practice. And so really the experience of having an affordable community school available for them was key and truly transformed their life. And for me too, like I went to public schools all my life, all the way through, I went to UCLA for undergrad, and then I went to UC Davis for law school. That's how I ended up in Northern California. And for me, when I was finishing my first semester in law school, I was really struggling. I had done very, very well in undergrad, but I ended up learning that I had learning disabilities that were completely undiagnosed. And I was just no longer able to compensate the sheer amount of reading that you have to do in law school. And so that really kind of set me off on my course, which was that it was, it was in the early 1990s, the Americans with Disabilities Act had just passed. And I felt very much part of that movement, the disability rights movement. And so I was determined to do disability law. And I started working, actually, my first summer job was doing disability law jointly with a friend of mine from law school who had vision impairments. We worked as a team. But my second year, I started working at Disability Rights California, and I essentially never stopped working for them. I kept, working for them as intern, and then worked for 12 years. And so I did a lot of employment rights, voting rights. I ran their voting rights program, their assisted technology program. I did a lot of work around public benefits, architectural access. And so for me, and I did educational access issues. So, it was kind of funny because I had to get accommodations myself in law school and for the bar exam. And it was really rewarding to be able to help people navigate that themselves, and get accommodations, whether in the workplace or what have you. So again, my experiences with education really, really did change my life. So I'm extremely committed. You can see if you look at my background, I've worked for a long time in the county as a healthcare advocate with the Multi-Faith Action Coalition. I serve on the sort of in that role, but not really, but on the Measure X Advisory Board for the county. So I advised the county on their budget and the money is supposed to go to people who are most underserved in our county. So I was also, participated in the needs assessment. So all that to say, sorry, I was very long-winded, but all that to say is that I'm acutely aware of what the issues are in our county and very much aware that people are struggling, and that it's really hard to live here. And what I would really like to see is that people are able to utilize everyone is able to utilize the community college. It's a fabulous resource that can really help people move out. And I want to see, people who are working at the college be able to live in the surrounding communities, which is challenging. And I also want to see that people who are, graduating and moving out, graduating from the community college are able to move to a job. I mean, there's so many jobs that we really need help filling right now. Healthcare jobs, teaching jobs, you name it. And so I want to make sure that whatever sort of blockages in those workforce pathways, because there's different issues in different places. Like it could be that I've heard people aren't aware of some of the really fabulous apprenticeship programs that we have. I just toured the plumbing program yesterday. Blown away at how amazing it is, but it's not even a filled program. Like, why is that? So like just kind of really taking a look, evaluating, and seeing where we can make changes to better make our community college system accessible and also a good place to work.
Great.
Oh, and also, just a fun fact, I have really close ties with DVC. So my husband's father worked as the dean of students for over 25 years. He worked there. I think he retired in 1985.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, we have deep ties to the community and, again, just an amazing resource. My own twins who are now seniors and trying to figure out where they're going to go. They may very well end up,
Right.
going to DBC.
Well, good. We'll
yeah.
take them.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, they're both neurodiverse. And again, that's also something, it's a fabulous resource for students who, for whatever reason, maybe they're neurodiverse, maybe they're just, have some more maturing to do. Maybe their life circumstances are such that they are not able to really manage moving away to a four-year college, but they can't afford it. It's a great way to get And I think it's a really underutilized resource. Like, I went to UCLA undergrad back in the day where you could just type your application, on a typewriter.
On a
That's how old I
typewriter.
am. And and get in. But the lower division courses, I sat in rooms with like 500 people. The biggest room I had was 1,000 people. And you're taking a class, you don't have access to the professor. Like, wouldn't it be better to go to community college where you have amazing staff that many have like real life experience in the work that you might be interested in doing. A lot of them are UC professors that like also come and work here part-time, or professors from other places, and you're in a classroom with just a small number of people. You also get to learn how to be with a really diverse group of people, because it's the educational home for everybody. I mean, what a fabulous experience, and what a more meaningful experience than maybe what I experienced like my first 2 years at UCLA. So anyway, yes, you can tell I'm really excited about community colleges, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to kind of, work on the governing board, work with a really great group of people who have all endorsed me, and several of whom I've worked with before. So
Nice. Well, good. It sounds like you're very enthused about it, and we are enthused to have people who are
I am.
enthused. Okay, so some of the issues that we're having, as you know, if you've been working on Measure X and you've been looking at cost of living issues, I think it was 43.63 an hour is what you need to make in Contra Costa County
Really?
at this time.
Wow.
That was the report that just came out for 2024. And for us, that's going to be the top step of range 65. And we have about a 40, it starts at 40 and it goes up to 80. So, that's where we actually hit that within our group.
Right.
So, I don't know if you were at the governing board meeting or you watched the governing board meeting this last week, but, or on Wednesday, I should say.
I wasn't able to make it.
That's okay. There was the report was out, and it shows that the classified professionals are the most diverse work group in our institution. So,
And probably the least paid, I would guess.
it is. We are the lowest paid and
Mhm.
the most diverse group. This year we are having some funding challenges. Obviously the budget is the budget. In addition, we have been doing diligent work, the district has, in fully funding our retiree benefit.
Yeah.
And that is quite costly. That's over it's like around $11 million out of our general fund every year.
Wow.
So that has a huge impact on the ability for us to have wages. Now,
Mhm.
our latest contract, we did a formula, and this formula netted us absolutely nothing because healthcare costs have gone up so drastically. It's literally the last 2 years. I don't know if you're aware here, 40%.
Yeah.
Over the
No,
last 2 years. This
I'm
year
a
it's
healthcare
25.
advocate.
Yeah.
I'm well aware. Yeah.
So absolutely nuts. That was Kaiser alone. Our folks are not going to receive a cost of living increase this year, and they are paying higher premiums. Now, don't get me wrong, we have very, nice benefits here.
Yeah.
And the district pays a large portion, but it still doesn't translate to money to pay for rent and food. That being said,
Yep.
we'll start with the first question, which is, with the district focused on funding employee retirements over the next 10 years, how would you help classified professionals handle the rising costs of living during this time? Now, I don't expect you to have a plan on the fly, but maybe just at least a couple of ideas that you might have around that.
Well, first, I just want to say, like, I get it. So my parents divorced when I was 3, and I lived with my mom. She was working full-time as a middle school teacher, and I was still eligible for the free lunch program at school.
Mhm.
So I know what it's like to, be struggling. And I'll say too that it's a challenging time. because of the downturn in the economy in California, right? We went from having a huge surplus to a big deficit. And, you know, the other big factor, and this, you know, I mean, I would love to see things change on a grander scale, at a legislative level. I've done a ton of policy work. I did a lot of policy work as a disability rights attorney. When I was on the board of directors for disability rights in California, I ran the legislative committee. And, you know, I serve on the state legislative team for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And then I work on a lot of healthcare issues, and have been advocating for budget issues to serve people in our own county, which has a huge budget for, you know, the last 8 years. So I know how much what we get from the state impacts what we can do. And you know, the thing that makes me most frustrated is that the community college system gets the least amount of money per student from the state, right? Less than the UCs, less than K through 12, less than the Cal States. And it serves the highest number of students. So that's just wrong. I would love to see that change, and would love to see more like a legislative fix down the road. I don't know, you know, like I'm just starting to look at these issues. But that would definitely be one long-term approach I would really like to see happen. And that's on top of just frankly, public schools in general, at every level, frankly, being chronically underfunded. And I will say, I think that's primarily because once women became the folks who were teaching and primarily in those positions, the wages started to drop. So there's a lot of systemic issues,
Right.
Is what I'm saying. But I think we have to be creative. If there's anything I've learned over the many years I've served on so many different nonprofits, is that you have to get creative about ways to get funding. I mean, that's how we got Measure X. That's why we passed Measure X. A group of us, the Multi-Faith Action Coalition, along with several other community-based organizations, were tired of hearing from the Board of Supervisors that they don't have money, you know, to provide childcare, to provide, you know, all the different kinds of supports that people in our community desperately need. How about provide healthcare for everybody in our community, including people who are undocumented, which has been the focus of my work. So we're like, okay, let's bring in some more money. And we pulled together this measure. We got it passed. We made sure there was an advisory board that would advise how this money would be spent. So I think you can come up with creative ways to bring in more funding. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, the housing bond kind of got pulled. You know, I'm hoping bonds will help at least work on the infrastructure issues. I'm hoping that this proposition will pass that will lower the percentage that the population has to vote in order to vote on funding measures in our state. Like, I'm hoping that will pass to make it easier. And I think we just have to think outside the box. Like, one idea I had, and I have no idea if this will work, but so when I pay my bar fees, because I'm not active with the bar, but I pay like to be on an active status. So when you pay your bar fees, there's like all these line items on there that many of which are voluntary. Like, would you like to support community legal services, to provide free legal services for people who can't afford it? If you would like to make a donation, here's the line for it. And I feel like, especially in the communities in Ward 2, where you have a lot of the more affluent communities like Lafayette and Moraga and Alamo and Orinda, where I live, you know, more and more people are utilizing the community colleges because their kids are not getting into their UC of choice or their school of choice. And it may be easier to transfer into those schools. I know that DVC has the highest transfer rate into Cal, for example. So what about adding a line just on the registration form that says, if you would like to donate, and then, that would be how we would try to figure it out. What would it go to? Would it go to a general fund? Would it go to help support students who couldn't otherwise, would it go to just, who couldn't otherwise afford to go? Would it go, so like trying to just have a few line items on there because, say what you will about my community. Still feel a little out of place there, but after living in Oakland 10 years with my upbringing, but people are pretty generous.
You're right.
And if they feel like, well, I was going to be spending, $30,000-$40,000 a year on a UC, but I'm getting this great deal. Sure, I'll donate some money if I can write it off on my taxes. So anyway, that was like just one idea I had, but I think we really do have to just kind of think outside the box. If there are different, there's always federal and state kinds of grants. There may be ways to just kind of lobby for that. So anyway, I don't know, but the critical thing is to bring in more money.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I completely recognize that it's an issue.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that leads into
Yeah.
the next question is it's a creative thought, we've been kind of talking about on our side. It's been in the legislature, it's been at the federal level as well as the state level. Would you be open to exploring, at the very least, exploring a 32-hour work week without a pay cut for classified professionals as a way to help with work-life balance and the rising costs of living? And one of the reasons we're exploring that is because it is just a lot of folks in classified have second jobs. And something like that would help enable them.
And they
to-
may not be able to live here.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive. So there
Yeah.
might be commuting time involved too, right?
Especially as, we're kind of getting to a point where folks are starting to retire. There's a generation that's kind of starting to fall off. And so we're going to have to try to attract and retain new, younger folks and, well, not necessarily younger, but new folks that might be part of the Pepper system. And I don't know if you're familiar, but
I don't know what the Pepper system is. Oh,
part of
Yeah.
CalPERS has
Oh.
different tiers, and Pepper is the newer one, and it doesn't have a very rich retirement program.
oh, I see. Right. I mean, it is,
So,
it's getting to be an issue, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's also one of the challenges, I think, of the community colleges is that there's fewer people, right? There's fewer students, like the population is dropping, and so there's more competition, which does mean that we need to ensure that we are attracting quality folks and that we're able to retain them.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think, again, I do think we need to be creative. My experience working as a disability rights attorney, that's what you do, is that you try to come up with creative solutions on, well, how can you perform the essential job functions with these changes or modifications? Maybe you need to change, and I think, the other thing is looking at, well, what are some systemic barriers? And that might be one systemic barrier, right? That we might need to look at modifying. It's not something I've looked at, so I don't know what the challenges are besides, besides funding.
Yeah,
Just
right,
is the
right,
challenge and
right,
balancing it.
Right.
Is it going to require offsetting the cost somewhere else or not? I don't know, but
Okay.
I'm a very collaborative person. Would be someone who would have or open door policy. Like as issues come up, I would want people to come to me because I feel like that's my role. It's a problem solver. And that, I have faith that we're all working towards the same goal, right? We all really want our community college system to be a great place to go to school and a great place to work.
I agree. Okay.
and be able to maintain it, right?
Yes, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, keep it alive.
That leads us into yet another question of the
Yeah.
same nature, which is how would you balance the need to fully fund employee retirements while also addressing the immediate needs of classified staff like salaries and benefits? Realistically, it's more or less salaries, but benefits play a huge part, as we know.
Oh, yeah,
Our benefits are great. It's just the cost has gone up so significantly.
right, right.
Yeah, so that's just our,
Yeah, sort of my answer is kind of the same for all of them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, yes, we need more money. Yes, we need to find creative ways to fund it. Yes, it's an issue.
yeah, I think,
And yeah, it's sort of, I don't know what, I mean, I'm thinking like an attorney too, like, I don't know are there statutory requirements or I don't know what or contract requirements in terms of what is required to be funded.
yeah, we
So-
do, there are requirements, but it's mainly geared towards the faculty and how much time they're spending with students. And it's much different for classified staff than it is for faculty. So we're in like two totally different nations, if you
Right,
will,
right.
with regard to requirements and even funding for the most part. You know, there's also a 50% law, which you may or may not be
Yes.
aware of. So,
I've
and you
heard
know,
of that, and that can be challenging to figure out, because one of my key issues too is ensuring that students, I mean, and you talk about the wellness program, and that's a question, students and faculty and staff have the supports that they need, whether it's IT, whether it's wellness programs, definitely healthcare is obviously key. So, it's, oh, I just totally lost my train of thought, but
it's okay.
yeah,
I would go over this last question, but you've already answered it, honestly. It's just, the question is, creative compensation ideas
yeah,
and we've pretty much discussed it, so I'm not gonna.
yeah, I mean, flexible work options,
Yeah,
if you're able, if some of the work that you're doing is typing up something for someone, right? Like,
Yeah.
we live in an electronic era. There's no reason why, especially if you're commuting from a long distance, you need to come into work. Like, there should be a balance, and I fully, I think all the data has shown, and I fully, trust that employees who work at home are often much more productive than they are at work.
Actually, a lot of our
Yeah.
members, that's been something that we've been working on collaboratively with the district.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're not student facing, it just seems silly
It is.
to have that additional expense.
Exactly.
So we are very interested in not to the detriment of students, but utilizing a work from home option as much as possible.
Sure.
Because as we know, the students are our bread and butter, right?
Yeah,
They are the reason we exist. So we definitely like to keep that.
And it has other implications too. I mean, for the climate,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay, well,
So-
that is all the questions that I have for you, Diane. So
Oh,
if you
great.
have any any other message, besides what you shared with us at the beginning?
I don't know, did anyone else want to ask me questions
Let's see,
or
does
follow-up
anybody have
questions?
any questions? I have two folks and I have no raised hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they're just listening because it is actually work time.
Oh, okay.
So they're probably
They're typing and
listening. Yes, they're probably typing and listening.
No worries.
But that's all I have left. Okay,
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, otherwise the campaign's going okay.
yeah,
Like I said, I do have an opposition, and I do have kind of like a under the radar race. And so I am hoping to bring in some more funding so that I can, I'm not able to afford, I mean, you know how expensive it is to publish anything.
right.
So I'm not really gonna be, I mean, I will be on the Democratic slate, and of course, I have endorsements from every, every labor organization that
Wonderful.
the building trades and, the,
So then you might be
Central
also
Council.
interested in funding as well.
yes. very
Wonderful.
interesting.
We'll
If you're
we'll move
able
that,
to
yeah.
manage it.
We will,
That would definitely, that would help me be able to just, like, my goal is to, because what I'm also finding, like, sort of our campaign strategy has been to want to do sort of house parties throughout
mhm,
to get sort of my name out because it is such a large
district.
large
mhm.
district. But I'm finding that everyone, they don't want to go to the parties. Many people are very focused on the national, as they should be on the national election. And they're like, oh, the union supports you, great. I'll vote for you too. I'll tell my friends. I don't need to come and meet you. I don't need to do a meet and greet. So a lot of people are like, no, I don't need to go to the party. I don't need to go. I'll vote for her, but you still need to raise funds to be able to like
Yeah,
get your name out there in some of the lesser known areas. So
right.
that's mostly what we're focused on now. And I think we're gonna do a lot by Facebook ads. Is gonna reach, I think, a lot of the folks. So we're looking at lesser expensive
Mhm.
options. But like, I like to go out and meet people in community settings, and it would be nice to be able to have a small piece of lit that I can give them that they can take with them to
Cool.
remember me. So,
Okay,
thank you.
well, thank you, and.
Such a pleasure
Yes,
to meet you in
wonderful.
person.
It was a pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you guys for being on the
Thank-
call.
This is Fernando Sandoval. He is running for Ward 2, and I'm Jeannie Smith. I think you know. 5, I'm sorry, Ward 5. I apologize. We just did Ward 2.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just let you go ahead and share why you're running and a little bit about yourself, and then I have a few questions for you.
Okay. Well, I'm running. Thank you very much, Jenny. I really appreciate the time that you guys are affording me. It's very exciting to be here in front of you and the team. And the reason I'm running, it really comes down to really one thing. It's all about the students for me and their families to help them understand and demystify higher education, get them into higher education and help them succeed. Okay, and help them by advocating for less cost. So I want to reduce the debt for them. I want them to be successful, finish, and have no debt as much as possible, and have a great experience. That's why I'm running. And I am able to connect with a lot of students and their parents now. And I talk to them and I listen to their needs, and it's exciting for me to talk to the parents and the students. And then when I see the students actually at the student union, at LMC or the student union at DVC, and the veterans at the Veterans Resource Center, that jazzes me up because I see the hope and energy they bring. Okay, so what else would you like to know? Okay, a little bit more about myself.
Sure.
Okay, a little bit more about myself. I'm the poster child, okay, for a community college board. I was born in Sacramento. I lived in a labor camp on the Sacramento River until I was 5 years old. I came to East County, to Pittsburgh. Didn't know any English, so I had to learn English on my own. They did not have bilingual education in those days. But I excelled because I got a library card, and the library card allowed me to explore the world. And I got into sci-fi early. And so other people were complaining about Vietnam. I actually went to Vietnam. So I'm a Vietnam veteran. And I got a lot of training with advanced electronics, 2,000 hours worth of training, actually.
Mhm.
And so with that training, I was able to be on the USS Enterprise, work on all their computer systems. And when I got out of the service 6.5 years later, I went to work for Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, which was a great experience. I worked with a lot of physicists, a lot of engineers, and a lot of really cool things. And then I worked with a lot of other companies, IBM, General Electric and such. And then over time, I morphed to be a business manager, and they like what I brought to the table from a solution set perspective and from a policy perspective, because I worked in policy. And I became a international banking consultant, where I worked in places such as Dubai, England, Hong Kong, Africa. So I got the wealth of experience from working with different people. And that experience has allowed me to understand how to work with other people, how to be positive, and how to really understand that you're only as successful as the people around you. And that's what I built my my work on. Even at the board had some troubles when I came on, but my job was to help them and collaborate and be a positive collaborator. And now most of the votes we get are 5-0, if not 4-1, because we have a level of respect and we go forward and we truly enjoy each other to get this work done.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, I have some questions, just, they can be they might be a little bit challenging, but just at least have we'd like to have at least an idea of, how you might approach some of this stuff. So my first question is, the cost of living. As you know, there was a recent, report done, by Contra Costa County regarding the cost of living. And it says that you need to earn $43.63 an hour, in order to afford, average rent in Contra Costa County. So for us, that's, step 5 of range 65. That's when we actually reach that range as classified professionals. And as you know, classified professionals are the most, diverse workforce at the district and the lowest paid. So basically the question is, with the district focused on funding employee retirements over the next 10 years, how would you help classified professionals handle the rising cost of living during this time?
You know, that's a very good question. And I've actually talked about this in my board meetings and closed sessions, because my perspective is classified professionals should be going up and get a living wage. And I've talked about that. And I've talked about different ideas to figure out how we can fund classified professionals, especially those that aren't getting their $43 an hour. You know, so some of the things is we have to go back and take a look at our entire compensation package, right? And take a look. And I know we got the new formulas in, right? Because I was part of overseeing that. And we got to look the new formulas in and take a look at what we can do to adjust that. I mean, some ideas I had, and so we have to continue to think about some of these ideas, is maybe having a housing stipend for classified professionals at a certain level. You know, but then the question is going to be, what's going to happen when they reach that level and the housing stipend goes away, right? So we have to think about that carefully, right? We have to think about other things for classified professionals. On top of transportation is a big issue, right? Transportation. Okay, so what do we do to mitigate the transportation issues with classifieds, right? And we got to sit down and listen to classified professionals about the challenges they face and be honest about it and don't sweep it under the rug, you know, and make it a priority for us, right? And that's what we need to do. And we need to work together to come to some level set solution. We don't know what that is, but we have to think about it and we just can't ignore it.
Thank you. Okay, so that leads us into one of the creative solutions that we've been thinking about, which is a 32-hour work week. So would you be open to exploring a 32-hour work week without a pay cut for classified professionals as a way to help with work-life balance and rising costs? And one of the reasons why we're even thinking about this is because oftentimes classified professionals have to have 2 jobs. And this might enable us to be more effective during our time because we can get some rest and also working a second job.
Right. The 32-hour work week, I'm for that. You know, remember, I worked internationally in Dubai and England and all that, and the 32-hour work week was common.
Yeah.
And they had other compensations and a lot more holidays than we have, but it was common and they were very effective. Okay, because that's going to help not only with allowing classifieds to be able to get another job, it's going to help with their mental health, right? So they won't be as stressed at work. And guess what? They'll figure out how to manage the situation. And we have to adapt, just like we did with distance learning, with remote distance learning. We can do this here too. We just have to decide to do it and do it in a good way that supports everybody. So I'm definitely for it.
Wonderful. I do. You know, this has actually been at the federal level as well as the state level. There's been some bills, some legislation put forward. Again, we're still tackling this, balancing the retirement funding and current needs. Now, we absolutely respect and, want the retirement fully funded. But as you know, we're spending about $11,000 or million, I should say, $11 million a year to fund OPEB to, make sure that our retirement's fully funded. So how would you balance the need to fully fund employee retirements while also addressing the immediate needs of classified staff like salaries and, benefits, obviously?
Well, I think the immediate needs are what's in front of everybody, because you gotta pay for housing, you gotta pay for electricity, you gotta pay for food, and all those salaries and benefits are fine when they come.
Yeah,
But we have some immediate needs. I'm thinking, we can go back and take a look at what we do for reserve funding. Because we go ahead and provide more reserve funding that's required. So we ought to go back and take a look at some of that and see if we can pull back a little bit, especially in these times that are gonna be challenging for us, right?
Right,
And so, and because we don't want to cut back,
right.
we want to support. And that's the way you do it. And so,
Wonderful, thank
what do you
you.
think?
I think so. I mean,
Right. I'm open to that.
we are keenly aware that the students are everything. They're the reason why we're here, and we want to completely support our students, but we also want to live.
Yeah, but the other thing is, the 32-hour work week to support our students
Yeah.
is the fact that we're doing 50% distance learning.
Right.
So that should be part of the overall package as you think about compensation,
I think so too.
right?
So that's gonna lead us to yet again another compensation, because it's such a monumental issue at this time, which is, since wage increases are limited, what other ways can we support classified professionals such as flexible work options? Again, we kind of already talked about this. I apologize for the redundant question. Professional development and wellness programs. So we're in the throes of trying to get our remote work program fully implemented. Obviously, the folks who have to face students, there's going to need to be more people in person for that. But folks who don't face students, it eases a lot of the congestion. It eases the workload on even the folks that have to be there. So say grounds people,
Right.
custodial staff, and so forth. So just wondering, what kind of creative compensation ideas do you think that would
Well,
fall in line with
well, let's
them?
kind of go over the top. Let's talk about wellness programs.
Yeah,
I know that the classified professionals, because they're working so many hours, right, come through a lot of mental stress. I know personally.
yeah,
I talk to people.
Yeah.
I feel them, so I think for first part in the wellness program, we ought to advocate more for more holistic type of support, right? I'll give you an example. There's this new program we just started, Concordia Wellness. Have you heard of Concordia?
I have.
Okay, so they're big
Mhm.
and they actually teach remote training for people
Mhm.
to learn how to do this stuff, but they do the holistic teaching, the Reiki and all that
Mhm.
to help people calm down. I think that's one thing that we need to do is we need to respect and value our employees and let management understand that wellness is a big part of what we do. So that's one thing. Okay, professional development.
Mhm.
Hey, man, let me tell you, I'm one of these guys that knocks on the door. I'll give you an example of professional development. I said, you know what? We have a lot of people that are adjunct. We have a lot of people in classified. And I said, you know what? We need to be intentional about moving these people up and out. And I sat down and I talked to HR and I have to know my role, but I know how to say it. And my perspective is we ought to work on providing some leadership programming, okay, so that we can give people hope and an opportunity to grow. And they get the opportunity to grow, that means they're going to get better compensation. And then you go ahead and let the entire classified groups know that, and that will give them an opportunity to decide if they want to opt in to that kind of stuff. So I'm big on leadership programming, big, right? And I think we have to be intentional about that. And I don't think we're being as intentional as we need to be. And that's my viewpoint from sitting in the chair, right?
Right.
Right? And flexible work options. You know what? We just went through this flexible work option thing because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
And we learned a lot. Right? But I think we're still learning,
Mhm.
right? And I think that we ought to consider the kind of things that you guys have put forward even more carefully, as we go forward. Maybe we couldn't do something right away, but you know what? What about next year?
Right.
Because, next year is going to be here the day after tomorrow, and we have to think about the day after tomorrow now. So we need to take a look at those options.
Well, that concludes my questions. Do you have anything additional that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would. I've been very humbled to have the governing board trustee seat at this great institution. And there's so many good people that are working in this institution all over the board. And I like talking to everybody, and I'm always listening. So if you guys got something else you want to share with me, send me an email, send me a note. I'll be glad to listen and figure out what we can do to move these things forward.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Fernando. That's going to conclude our interview, and we're going to end up sending this meeting out, and we're going to do a survey. We'll get done with endorsements. And also, were you looking to have a financial endorsement as well?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you everyone who was able to attend.